Hello students. Today we are going to see this topic DNS components. Okay. So under 12th chapter it comes DNS components. DNS means domain naming services, uh, domain naming systems. So we have detailedly discussed about this DNS in the previous class. Okay. So today we are going to see this. There are three important components of DNS. One is namespace, name server, and zone. Okay, we will going to see this three components in a detailed way. Okay, so the first thing is namespace. This namespace is for creating a unique name for your domain. Okay, so it has two ways. Okay, one is flat namespace and hierarchical namespace. So this flat name space is your IP address will be given a flat name. So say for example YouTube. Okay, YouTube is a flat name. The YouTube server will have an IP address. So this IP address goes to this youtube.com. But hierarchical namespace is the namespace that is specific domain. Okay, say for example tn.government.schoolstudies.com. Okay, so in this way you can see that this site is particularly for Tamil Nadu, and this site is for particularly for government organization, and it specifically it is designed for school education. Okay, so that's what the hierarchical namespace is for. Okay, so it contains separation for organization or department in that particular website. Okay, so next is domain namespace. So this domain namespace is having several levels. Okay, so from level 0 to level 27. So the first level 0 is the root level. So you can see that this diagram figure 12.5 will show you the different levels of domain naming space. Okay, so this space is used to group the sites according to the levels. Okay, so educational site in the education level, organization site in the organization org level. So each level you can see that there are particular sites. Okay, so you can see that there are 0 to 127 levels of domain naming spaces. Okay, so here you can see that next thing is it is also labeled. Okay, so each domain name is labeled so that it is easy to group them. So next is you can see that domain names. Okay, so each domain name must be separated with the dots. Okay, and you can also create multiple subdomains for a particular domain. For example, drive.google.com. Okay, so Google is the domain name, but drive.google.com is the subdomain of google.com. Okay, so here you can see that next is basic rules of domain names. So domain name consists of alphabets A to Z and digits from 0 to 9. Hyphens or hyphens are allowed, but hyphens cannot be used as first characters of the domain name. So hyphen means you can see a small dash between text. So you can use this hyphen also to create uh, domain names, and it is not allowed to start beginning. It is not allowed to place at the beginning of a domain name. And the next thing is space are not allowed Special symbols such as exclamatory dollar symbol and symbol are not permitted. Okay, so domain name have the minimum length of 2 to maximum length of 63 characters. The entire name must be at host 253 characters long. Okay, so only 256 characters long. Okay, so your domain name must be www dot and your domain name dot com or dot org dot in or dot co dot in, anything. So the total URL or the total domain name must be 253 characters. So domain name are not case sensitive. uh, you may be it may be upper or lower or mixed, both letter cases. Okay, so your domain name can be of any case, uppercase or lowercase or capital letter or small letter, something like that. Okay, so generic top level domain based on the organization. Okay, so com means commercial purpose, edu means educational purpose, gov means government organizations, mil means military organization, org means non-profitable organization, net means networking organization, info means information service provider. So these are all the different types of domain representation. So this www.tnscrt is comes under .org. So you can see that there are different types of domains, top level domains and the second level domains and subdomains. Okay, so here you can see that Tamil Nadu Engineering and Admission comes under ac.in. Okay, so these are all the second level domains. So this is represented in this diagram 12.7. Okay, next is country level domain. Okay, so .in is India, .us means United States, .fr means France, .uk means United Kingdom, .ca is Canada, .au means Australia, .lk means Sri Lanka, .bd is Bangladesh, .cn is China, .pk for Pakistan, .jp for Japan, and SG for Singapore. And even you can have a domain name in your own language itself. So Unicode format can also be used to give the domain name. So next is naming server. So this is a piece of hardware that keeps the domain names and their IP address for the service provider. Okay, so here you can see that it is a piece of server. Okay, it is a piece of server. It has main parts of it is the main part of domain naming system. It translates the domain name into IP address. So name server consists of DNS database and corresponding IP address. So you can see that in page figure 12.8. So this 12.8, here you can see that this host is the client mobile phone or computer. So when you can see that when you type an URL or domain name, so it first checks with the local DNS naming server. If it is does not if the query is not resulted, then you can see that a root domain name server is connected, and if that is not also provided, then top level domain server will be provided. So maximum all the website will be there in this top level name server. So in that also it's not available, then it is go for authoritative DNS server. So compulsorily you can find the DNS domain name in this authoritative DNS server, and that particular DNS will provide you the IP address of it. So now the host will connect to the web server with this IP address. Okay. So here you can see that different types of name server. Root name server, primary or master name server, secondary name server. Okay. So root name server is top level, which maintains a DNS tree by ICANN. Okay, we ICANN is the organization that that is responsible for providing domain names. Next is primary name server. So this has zone resource records that is updatable by domain name holders such as organization. Okay. So second thing is secondary or slave name server. This contains a copy of primary name server. So if the primary name servers gets down or shut down due to some technical issue, then the secondary name server will come to play the role of primary name server. Okay. Next is label. Zone. So each domain has its particular zone uh, for the business purposes. For say, for example, if you want to see a particular product in the online, then it will show you the local supplier first. Okay, say for example, if you want a stationery item, then it will show the uh, local supplier. Okay, say for example, Camelin, uh, Camelin, and Dawn. So these are all the local suppliers. So it will not show the suppliers of American country. Okay. So first of all, it will show you the local supplier. So this zone will help you the domain or the location where the domain is existing. Okay. So here you can see that in figure number 12.9 shows the zone and their domain. Okay. So the root name and the zone according to the domain name, and zone of the domain is descriptive in the uh, domain name.com. Again, next is resolver. This is a small software that is installed in your computer whenever your browser or operating system is installed. So this resolver will give you the recently updated domain names system. Okay, say for example, google.com is oftenly been connected with the web browser. So this resolver will have a local DNS database in your computer itself, so that for every time you should not connect it is not needed to connect the DNS server. Okay. So it will have the list of website and their particular IP address. Okay. So this is known as resolver. And the next thing is, how does this DNS work? So here you can see that this is the browser. So the browser connects to the resolver. So the resolver connects to the local server, which has all the DNS and their IP address. Okay. So domain name and their IP address. If it is doesn't there, okay, if the local server doesn't have any domain name, it automatically connects to the root server. If the root server doesn't have the domain name, then it forwards that request to the org server. And if it doesn't have the if If the domain name is not present in the org server, then it will move on to the next root server. But it most probably it will be finding, since we are searching for tnsert.org, so it will be available compulsorily, it will be available under org domain name system. Okay, so these are all the important points that has to be considered while connecting to the DNS server. So this TLD means top level domain, which reviews the request and directs the naming server to their particular IP address. Okay, so this is at last the mapping of records are returned to the resolver, and the resolver will connect it to the IP address which is given by the DNS or other root level domain naming service system. Okay, so with this we'll finish the class today. We are finishing this the entire chapter now, and you can see that in the next class we'll be starting a new chapter which is known as network cabling. So thank you, students.